Hey Giants, welcome back to another week of pre-calc. What I'd like you guys to do, pull out the packet to 1.2a warm-up, and then go ahead and pause the video and try to solve 1, 2, and 3 here. See what you can do, okay? Now, obviously, I know some of you didn't pause it. You're just going to kind of take the easy way out and follow along with me. But come on, challenge yourself. Pause the video and give it a try. All right, so hopefully by now you've tried it. This first question, we're trying to decide, do these points fit into this equation? Okay, so right there, we want to know, can it satisfy the equation? And the easiest way here is we can just plug them in and see, is it a true statement? Okay, so this first one, we'll take 2 times our x value, which is -5, and then it's minus the y value, which in our case is 4. Does that equal 6? Now, 2 times -5 is -10. Minus 4 equals 6. -14. Does that equal 6? And that'd be a no. So our answer is no. Okay, so now for the second one, same exact thing. 2 times whatever our x is, which in our case is 2, minus the y value, -2. Does it equal 6? Now 2 times 2 is 4. When we subtract a negative, we add it. So plus 2, does that equal 6? 6 equals 6. So that's good. And yes, it does satisfy it. Okay, now our next one. We're trying to find the slope and y-intercept of these following lines. Okay, so maybe some of you remember y equals mx plus b. And the m in that case is our slope, and the b is the y-intercept. So this first one, super easy. Slope right here is 3. Y-intercept of -5. Y-intercept is where we start at, so we're going to drop down from the origin down 5. Okay, then we go up 3 and right 1, up 3, right 1, or down 3 and left 1. And we draw the line in. Obviously, my line's not perfect, but it shows the general path of it. Okay, now for this second one, it's a little more challenging because first we have to simplify it into slope-intercept form. So we're going to add 6 to both sides. And the reason I'm going through this so fast is because hopefully these are concepts you already know. Now, if it's not something that's natural to you, if you need some help, please let me know. Okay, I can get you some practice problems. So 2y will equal -3x plus 8. And at that point, all we got to do then is divide by 2. Now we have to divide both of them by 2. So this will cancel. And our final answer, y equals -3 over 2x plus 4. Now at this point, we can plug in the slope of -3 over 2 and 4 for our y-intercept. Now remember, our y-intercept is where we start. So from the origin, go up 4 and down 1, 2, 3 over 2. Down 1, 2, 3 over 2. Down 1, 2, 3 over 2. Or up 1, 2, 3 over 2. Okay, we draw our line in. Don't forget your arrows on both ends. My arrows could be better, but that's the general idea. Okay, now the final thing is just identifying points. So A is to the right 6, up 1. B is left and right 0. And then down, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So down is negative. Now C is right on the origin, so either 0, 0, or another acceptable answer would have been just to write the origin. Make sure we're familiar with that term. And then the final one, D, it's left 8, so that's -8, and up 0. Okay. Just a reminder, this is our x-axis, this is our y-axis. So go ahead now and flip it to the notes for today. And today we're going to be talking about x and y intercepts. Okay. So when we're trying to find the x-intercept or the y-intercept, this is essentially just the place where it crosses the x-axis or the y-axis. Okay, so an x-intercept is going to be where it crosses the x-axis. And if you have trouble remembering, the x-axis is the horizontal one. Okay, and then the y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis or the vertical one. All right, so we look at this first picture, example 1 here, and we want to know what our x-intercept is and what our y-intercept is. Now, there might be more than one answer, there might be no answer, it just depends on the problem. So we take a look here, and we're trying to find where does it cross this x-axis, okay? So there's 2 spots where it happens, right here and here. So we'll write them as ordered pairs at -1, 0, and also at 1, 0. And the y-intercept, it never crosses this y-axis, so we are going to have no y-intercept, or we can put none or NA. Okay. Now, example 2, whenever we have a graph, it's pretty simple. So same concept. We're looking for our x-intercepts and our y-intercepts. Now the x-intercept, be careful. It actually happens 3 times here. So it's going to be -2, 0, at 0, 0, and at 2, 0. And the y-intercept, it only crosses that y-axis 1 time. It's right here at the origin, so our answer is 0, 0. So when we have a graph, it's very easy to find your intercepts. Sometimes you won't have a graph, and you'll still need to find your intercepts. Okay, so there is a method for that. When we're looking for our x-intercept, okay, we can simply plug in a 0 for the y value. And I'll explain why in just a second. So the reason we can plug in a 0 for the y is if you think about it, the x-intercept occurs when it's at the x-axis, which occurs at a height of 0. It's right in line with the origin. So that's a height of 0, so that means the y value has to be 0. So if we look at this first example to find, or example 3 here, to find the x-intercept, if we plug in a 0 for the y, we'll have 0 equals 3x minus 12. Okay. At this point, we can simply add the 12 over. 12 equals 3x. Divide, and we get x equals 4. Okay. Now from here, we just need to write it as an ordered pair. So 4, 0, and we're done. Now, the y-intercept, same concept, except that will occur on the y-axis. So the y-intercept occurs on the y-axis, which means it's left and right 0 from the origin. Okay, so instead of plugging in 0 for x, many of you can probably guess, plug in 0 for the, or sorry, instead of plugging it in for the y, we plug it in for the x. And this isn't new to you. You should have learned this in Algebra 2 last year. So if we plug in a 0 for the x, now we're going to have y equals 3 times 0 minus 12. So we'll get y equals 0 minus 12. Y equals -12. So now to write it as an ordered pair, we'll simply do 0, -12. Probably the hardest part about this is making sure that you put the 0 at the right spot. So like for the y-intercept, remember our answer, the 0 goes there. For the x-intercept, the 0 goes for the y. Okay. So take a minute and try example 4. If you need to pause me, that's fine. So go ahead, and our x-intercept, remember we plug in 0 for the y value. Okay, so we are going to have 2x plus 3 times 0 equals 6. Now, if you want, you don't have to write every single step. So right here, I know 3 times 0 is 0. I know it's 0. I can just leave that out. So if you want, just put 2x equals 6. That's fine. Divide by 2, x equals 3. Now, if we're going to write it as an ordered pair, we get 3, 0. Now, for our y-intercept, same concept, except now we're plugging in the 0 for the x. So it'll be 2 times 0 plus 3y equals 6. 2 times 0 is 0, so we get 3y equals 6. Y equals 2. And our answer is 0, 2. Okay. Now, let's look at the next two. And the reason these two are a little different is because example 5 and 6 here both have an x squared. Okay. Now, it's not going to change it a ton, but it will cause a little bit of a change for us. Okay. So, if we have the x-intercept we're trying to find, same concept to start it. We plug in the 0 for the y. So we're going to have 0 equals x squared plus 4. At this point, we subtract the 4 over. We have negative 4 equals x squared. And you guys know to get rid of that square, we just take the square root of both sides. Now here's where we need to pause. We cannot take the square root of negative 4 and get a number on this coordinate plane. Okay, you probably briefly talked about imaginary numbers in Algebra 2. Okay, for right now, we don't need to dive into that, but just know that we can't have that negative 4, the square root of negative 4, because we have no value. If we multiply it by itself, we will get to a negative 4. Okay, so over here, make a note. You cannot just square root a negative. And if you do in this situation when you're looking for a intercept, if you have to do that, that means that you're going to get an answer of no x-intercept. So since we can't do that, we get no x-intercept as our answer. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and find our y-intercept. And for this one, instead of plugging it in for the y, we plug it in for the x. So, oops, let me change colors. So y will equal 0 squared plus 4. 0 squared, you know, is 0, so y equals 4, which means our y-intercept is at 0, 4. Okay, so now we'll do the second one. Same concept. So our x-intercept, we're going to plug in the 0 again for the y. We'll add the 1 over and get 1 equals x squared. And now, when we take the square root, since it's a positive, it works out. Square root of 1, now be careful here, it's actually not just 1, it's going to be plus or minus 1. Okay, so we're going to have two answers. Our answer is 1, 0 and negative 1, 0. Okay, those are our two answers. When we take the square root of a positive number, we're going to get two answers, a plus and a minus. So here, when you do this, you get two answers, plus and minus. Maybe just make a note of that. Sorry, my handwriting is a little sloppy today. Try to work on that. Now, to finish out today's notes, let's find the y-intercept. And once again, we're going to plug in the 0 for the x value. So we'll get y equals 0 squared minus 1. And we're left with y equals -1. So our answer, 0, -1. All right. That's all I've got for you today. Make sure you try to do the practice problems and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.